am feeling pretty good. So I want to correct something. Before we went to break, I made the mistake of just going off of what I initially saw in chat and not checking with the rules. So that's my bad. We're not going off to Shambali Monastery. That's not in the pool. I think Cherry J looked my way. I was like, what are you talking about, Ming Dong? So we
I wasn't paying attention, low-key.
Oh, good to know. Good to know. Instead, we're going to be off towards Route 66 here in just a moment. As once we got to get a map switched over as far as in our lobby. But yeah, Route 66 is where we are going to be off to. Kind of your thoughts. I'm curious as far as that. Or sorry, not Route 66. I'm an idiot. Junkertown. See, now I'm making two mistakes. We're off to Junkertown. What's your thoughts as far as what we should be seeing out here, Jerry J?
I think it makes pretty good sense, especially compared to that Shambali Monastery. I don't think they would have found a lot of success there, as there is still those long sight lines you have to deal with. This is a different map in terms of what you're going to be having that priority towards. A lot of teams are just going to be opting for the high ground, but you don't really need to if you're playing on this attacking side that Hollidaysburg is going to be starting on. Now, we take a look at the bans. It was interesting. So something that we saw CB South doing is they were the team to start out bans. They banned the Reinhardt, which was something their opponents had a little bit of success with, especially when it came to the shield, having that extra bit of protection for your DPS to move behind. It allowed them to get a little bit of extra space early on within fights. However, now that's going to be off the table, and that also does protect ban against Hollidaysburg. So that leaves the Winston and the Wrecking Ball both available for the Quickster if they do end up choosing into that. But on the opposite side, Hollidaysburg did end up target banning Artie, who was doing an absolute masterclass performance within their role on that Sojourn. That's going to be off the table. We'll see what Artie is going to swap to. You'd imagine that as a hit scan player playing that main DPS line, they're going to be just taking up the role as an Ashe, as a Cassidy. Something like that would make the most sense in my mind, but who knows, maybe they'll play something even more volatile like a Widowmaker.
Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and see what they opt for here. And you know what's interesting is Quickster not going with either of the two tanks that we had seen them being really successful with, I should say. In map number 1, Cassidy coming out here. Can't say that I'm too surprised as far as that goes. Let's go ahead and get down to it. Hold it down for the pound on Junkertown. CBS starting over on the defensive side. I do always like to kind of point out, at least as far as for me, I feel like defense is probably the preferred starting side on this playlist, right? You get to set a clear and concise line of finish line for your offense to start on. And I think for a team like CB South, who was able to control the pace as well as they did on control, something tells me they're going to find a similar sort of success here to start off this map.
We kind of alluded to this earlier within the series. The reason that we're going to be seeing this Zarya coming on out is due to the fact that this map requires a lot of brawling, a little bit less dive heavy, and we're already seeing Lolas trying to do what the Quickster was doing last game, where they dive into enemy backlines. However, when you're going up against a team that has that target priority, like Central Buck South is currently making happen, it really is hard to make the same level of value and impact with these picks. So we're already seeing Hollidaysburg on a really strong foot. Frenchettes going to be able to find that res. So really good stuff coming in from Braden, able to help them out. But the question is going to become, will they be able to succeed even further? Punch gets fired up, and Lolas is just going to try and play this point. Now they go for the flank, looking to punch backwards, but the hinder is actually going to be stopping them completely. Lolas down to around 100 HP. We're seeing CB South really pressuring them here.
Doing a great job of staying alive. Of course, as we say that, Lola's does fall. Once the tank falls, the rest will start to fall in succession, especially as Artie breaks out the ulti, able to find an additional, might even find a third up on this top level. And with that, CB South has been able to completely shut down this push from the side of Hollidaysburg area, and that's got to be so frustrating. 2 team waves back to back, and they're only about halfway towards this first checkpoint.
I think that the composition from Hollidaysburg worked a little bit better on the last map, as when you're running this Brig with the Juno, this used to be like the composition back a couple months ago, but currently in the state of Overwatch, it doesn't have nearly as much potential as a couple of other options you could be going for. Lola's going to use all utility, already finds a double kill, shutting down both opposing DPS. Lola's just trying to find any type of aggression, pushing out, but unfortunately the Quickster is just going to early put an end to that, and with a right click to broadside, going to be able to shut down the last two players. A minute 50 still around. There's chances, but Q, it's not looking very likely.
Yeah, especially when these team fights are not really lasting, that they've got to make sure that, especially when they come back in off of the respawn, that they're able to get back together. Looks like they were able to do that this time around, but the Quickster was pushed up right up against that door and already met this squad with so much resistance, essentially as soon as they stepped outside of the doors, already from distance able to find the sniper as well. No, actually that was the Quickster who was able to find that. And we're now at 75 seconds here left, and it just doesn't look like, with the way that things are going here on Junkertown, that this payload is going to be getting pushed much further.
I mean, this isn't even really a detriment to Hollidaysburg. It just is a testament to how strong the CB South roster is this year. They've been an absolute nuisance to deal with in the Fall Brawl, having a plus 12 map differential in 12 maps. Artie's going to be able to find a double kill with the Deadeye. The Quickster shuts down the next. 45 seconds remain. They're going to have the rally online, along with possibly the orbital ray. Both support ults are going to need to be invested here if they want to find success. The Quickster is going to take a little bit of damage, trying to get some shots in, as the Widowmaker is going to be really putting the pressure onto the Quickster. There's going to be the rally coming on in, trying to make something happen. Artie finding one. Chocolate Bar as well going to fall. Wrong Long taking that. There's going to be the next. Artie's actually going to be dropping to the ground. 80% charged, and there's actually going to be a double kill from the Brigitte, looking to keep this going. Braden finding the res. Artie's alive, and me and you both know that when Artie's alive, this game looks over.
Yeah, especially once you start taking down some of those front line sort of players. Not only do you take out the tank, but we had seen the Brigade also taken down as well, which really meant that everyone else kind of left wide open. The dominoes continued to fall, but they're in a position where they can no longer fall back and wait for a reset. That overtime wick has been licked. You have to try and find a way to get a touch, and with the final player finally falling and the Deadeye holding off anyone else from stepping forward, it will be a very obtainable win condition here at just 52.05 meters, and not even making it towards that first checkpoint.
I mean, it's kind of what you expect when you're playing against a team of this caliber.
Yeah.
CB South making a lot of roster changes within this off season of that summer break. Now we're going to be seeing the Quickster joining the roster. Rest of the team saying the same from last year, but just adding this new tank player to be taking the place of Frenchette, switching them over to the support role. It just looks like this team is going to have nothing that's going to contest them, at least for the next couple weeks. Maybe once we get towards that playoffs, towards when that elite division will be coming in, they might face a little bit like of a rock in the storm, but right now they just look unstoppable. So we're going to be seeing the same composition locked in. I do like this a lot from Hollidaysburg, moving Lolas over to the Orisa. I think they showed a lot of potential on the Doomfist. The problem was they didn't have that mobility from the rest of the roster to be able to keep up with them and create those coordinated dives that are so necessary. Rockstead's going to be moving over though.
I was gonna say, the one thing that's important is, it's one thing to push forward by yourself as a tank, right? But if you don't have the support with you, if you can create any minimum sort of space, if no one can push up with you and contest, at some point you're gonna have to fall back. That's actually one thing that I really enjoyed watching thus far from the Titans, is the fact that their tank has been so strong, so disciplined in when falling back, that they can create a whole bunch of nonsense in the background and in the back line. They create all sorts of havoc, but they know exactly when they've got to fall back to be able to get those heals, to be able to break lines of sight with their enemies, to be able to at least be able to heal themselves back up as well. So it's been really kind of fun to watch as far as on their side, and it just didn't feel like they had that same coordination over on the Hollidaysburg area side when they were playing with that aggressive tank.
It does seem like we're going to be in the midst of a tech pause as of now, as CB South is going to have a little bit of trouble with one of their DPS. Long is going to be out of commission for at least a little bit. We will see whether or not they will opt to play this as a 4v5. Maybe they'll be able to find some players from their B team in the reserve to fill in. I don't know if that's legal within the PIEA rules, but if so, definitely would be an option for them. Beyond that, though, we kind of take a look at the compositions. I like the Zenyatta coming out. I think that it's certainly one of the stronger picks within the current meta, as well as the Baptiste providing a lot of heals. So it definitely will be able to counteract the lack of support that does come from the Zenyatta, who likes to make their own plays, be able to pressure out onto tanks with the Discord Orb. There's going to be a lot of options for this team, and I just want to see whether or not they're going to be able to find anything well.
It also feels like when you look at the rest of the composition over there, you had mentioned Lola switching over the Orisa. It feels like a much more, dare I say, bare bones sort of composition. It's kind of a lot of what you would expect, I guess you can say, kind of the more typical sort of, maybe not that's what you'd expect, but I mean, when you combined the Orisa, which not only has a lot of sustainability, but kind of friendly as far as user wise. Same thing with the Bastion players, legends that I think you were able to at least have a decent grasp of early on in Overwatch. I'm not surprised to see them kind of go for a more more basic composition here.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing this game continuing as a 4v5, so we'll see whether or not CB South is going to be able to keep up the same level of dominance as they were able to do in game number 1 and in the previous half of this game. But unfortunately, they're going to be down one DPS player. Their flex DPS on that Tracer going to be off the table. So we'll see what they can find. Obviously, this is certainly going to be unfavorable for CB South, but I can't say this is the first time in PIEA where I've seen a team on the 4v5 being able to win out a series, but it certainly is Overwatch is one of the harder games to do it. I think Valorant, Rocket League, it becomes a little bit easier, but on a game like Overwatch where it's so team-oriented, it becomes a little bit more difficult to win out on that 4v5.
Yeah, it's not like in Valorant where you find one quick headshot and all of a sudden the server's to a 4v4. You know what I mean? The balance of having everything, especially when it comes to, in this case, the second DPS, you can really see the difference. However, trying to push out, not going to be successful this time around. One thing I was going to point out as well was the change in tank for the side of CB South. Since playing shorthanded, not surprised to see them opt to try and bring out the Horsey, right? Try and bring out the Orisa, a little bit more sustainability on the point. Maybe work together with Artie to try and find those early opening picks, which actually Quickster is going to be able to do here. The other thing that really works to CB South's advantage is they put themselves a really obtainable win condition. I mean, you win 2 team fights and you're good to go, and they've already halfway there trying to see if they can take down the Bastion. Quickster doing a phenomenal job pushing forward, buying all sorts of time and space for the Titans. And look at this, they're already knocking on the doorstep of the finish line.
Yeah, as the game is about to conclude, one last touch coming in. Chocolate Bar looking to prolong this game. We see the Quickster easily able to burn down Wolas, and now that's just going to be the point. Moving on into its finishing moments, and CB South able to clear up their week 1 matchup in the PIEA 2025-2026 school year. They go up 2-0 against Hollidaysburg.
Imagine this is a squad that's looked really strong thus far in the fall brawl. Unsurprised to see them come out in dominant fashion, and it's going to be Artie with the play of the game. You all had seen it earlier, was just popping off, and then the Deadeye helping clean up the back end. It was those last 2 players that fall that were assists for Artie, but Artie dealing damage to a little bit of everybody as the team wipe came across.
And that's not it, Q. We got one more game for you, ladies and gentlemen. Forest Hills versus McDowell will be right your way right after this short break. So don't go anywhere. Don't change the Twitch channel. We'll be back with more PIEA action right after this.